All right. So this is the next section in Chapter 9, looking at our Intro to Trig unit. And this is all about angles. So this, again, I'm going to divide up into smaller videos so you can have chunks of it rather than one long video. And this first one is really just looking at how to draw angles. So angles can be formed by fixing one ray, which is called the initial ray, right, because it's the starting one, initial. And then you rotate the second ray, and that's called the terminal ray with its vertex. So if you think about this on a picture, I have an initial ray, and a ray is a line that has a fixed point to start off with, and it goes off forever on the other side. So I have that initial ray. And then I'm going to rotate this a certain amount to get a second ray, which is called the terminal ray. And this point that they both share, that's called the vertex. And then the thing in between that rotation is the angle. When we do standard position, the vertex is at the origin on a coordinate plane. So if I'm drawing it in an x and y axes, right in the middle here, that's where I put that vertex piece. And then the initial side is on the positive x-axis. And then you can choose to rotate in two directions. So if you start off, let me do this in a different color. So initial ray, that's on the positive x-axis, so going to the right. I can rotate to make my terminal ray either rotate this way and put a ray there, or I can rotate this way and get a ray over there. Right, so depending on which direction I rotate, that's going to change the angle. If I rotate counterclockwise, so that red version, that's a positive angle. And if I rotate clockwise, so like the light blue one, that's a negative angle. So we can have both positive and negative angles when we draw them, and the positive and negative tells us which direction to rotate when drawing our angle. So let's practice drawing with this, knowing what we know about positive, negative, where to start, and so on. So we have some angles here, 225 degrees to start off with. So anytime we're drawing angles, we're going to draw a coordinate plane. So just put your x and y grids down. And the vertex is at the origin, so we'll put a point over there. And then the initial side, that's always on the positive x-axis. So that's facing right. Now we want to think about rotating this to make a positive angle, positive 225 degrees. So positive means I go counterclockwise. So I'm going to move this direction. Well, if I go from here and reach this bit, that's 90 degrees. If I keep going, that's 180 degrees. So I'm getting close to 225. If I go all the way to this next one, that's another 90 degrees. That's 270 degrees. That's too far. So it's somewhere in the middle here, somewhere around there is where I need to stop. When you do that, you put the arrowhead showing the direction you moved in, and then put in your final arrow for that angle. So we're putting this like a curved arrow thing in to show us that the angle that's 225 degrees is this outside angle up here rather than the angle down there. That's not the angle we want. So that's how you draw an angle. So let's do this again for 400 degrees. So again, I'm going to draw my axes. And then put down the vertex and the positive x-axis for our initial ray. It's now 400 degrees. So I start rotating counterclockwise because it's positive. Get 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, 360 degrees. And if you're having trouble trying to visualize this, I always, when I'm doing this, I just think of myself like standing facing in one direction and just rotating myself around and facing different directions. So kind of think of it as like if you were facing right and then you turned to face forward, that would be a 90-degree turn. You turn again to face the opposite side from where you set it off. That's a 180-degree turn. Keep going. So you get 360 degrees once you go in a full circle. But we need more than 360. We need 400. So we're going to continue turning. If I turn all the way up here, that's 420 degrees. So it's going to be... Sorry, that's 450 degrees if I go all the way there. So I need to go shorter than that. So somewhere around there is where I stop. Put the arrow for the direction I moved in. And then draw in my last ray. So this angle is a small angle here if I just thought about this in geometry. But I'm extending that because I'm showing you that actually, to make this angle, I rotated a full circle first and then rotated a little bit more after that. Let's do one more. So this is negative 45 degrees. So again, we start off vertex and initial ray. Now this angle is negative, which means we move clockwise. So I go this way. And then if I go all the way to this line, that's a 90-degree angle. I just need 45, so that's halfway to 90. So somewhere around there is where I stop. And put in my other arrow. So now you can see when we do this, there's a lot of different ways we can name angles. For example, on this 400-degree angle, I could have gotten the same picture by just doing... Okay, no, this is my initial ray and terminal ray. I could have just turned a little bit, and I would have ended up at the same spot as when I turned a full circle and then a little bit. Or in this one, on the third one, I turned clockwise and got there. But I could have also, if I still want to get to this location, instead of going clockwise, it could go counterclockwise a really long time and still get to the same place. So because there are so many ways to get to the same spot with angles, there are these things called coterminal angles. So coterminal angles are ones where if the initial side or initial ray and the terminal ray are the same, then those angles are coterminal. So it doesn't matter how you get there, which direction you rotate it in. It's just, can you get to that same spot? And if you can, that's a coterminal angle. This usually means just like the way you do it is doing an extra circle, and then you'll get to the new angle, right? Like if I did, for example, on this one, this is 400 degrees, which is really doing 360 for that bit. And then I had to do 40 degrees here to make 400 degrees. Or I could have just gone 40 degrees. So notice how this angle, 400, is really just 360 plus 40. This is one circle and then a little more. That's what we're doing here. So we're just going to add and subtract multiples of 360 degrees to get to all these coterminal angles. So for example, we have 45 degrees. We want to find one positive coterminal angle and one negative coterminal angle. So first we'll draw this out to see where it is. So 45 degrees, well, that's moving counterclockwise halfway up. That's a 45-degree angle. So now I want to see what are two ways I can get to the same spot moving positively counterclockwise and negatively clockwise, which means I want this angle where I go one full circle and then go a little more. And I also want the angle where I go in the opposite direction and get to the same spot. So for the positive one, I know I have to go a full circle, so I have to go 360 degrees plus the 45 degrees to get to the same spot. So that means this is 405 degrees. That's my positive coterminal angle. For the negative one, well, that one was going in the opposite direction. So to get that, we take the 45 degrees and then subtract 360 from it. So as long as you're adding or subtracting 360 degrees, and you could add these multiple times. If you add more than 360 degrees, like if you add 720 degrees, that's 360 times 2. that just means you went 2 circles and then got to that spot. So here I'll do 45 minus 360 to get this green angle. And that would be negative 315 degrees. And then I have 2 coterminal angles. So these are angles that if you'd get to the same spot, you'd be facing the same direction, but you might have rotated more. You might have spun around more times or in a different direction to get there, but you get to that same spot in the end. So that's going to be this first video, is just drawing angles and finding coterminal angles, just thinking about angles in this coordinate system space. And then I'll do a few more videos about the rest of the stuff in this section. 2 more videos, I think. So I shall see you in the next one.